Speak the straightforward word, brother.
I want to change. Maybe we could say a prayer together.
I see them do it on country music channel.
We're going to Atlantic City.
Who came up with it?
Steve.
Steve did.
Hello and welcome to Slamdance. My name is Taylor Miller, and before we get started, I would like to give you a physical description of myself. I'm a white female wearing a blue and white striped dress. I have long hair and I'm wearing clear glasses. And I want to thank you for joining us today. If you want to discover the next generation of filmmakers, you've come to the right place. Slamdance is the place where many of the biggest names working in film today got their start. Filmmakers like Anthony and Joe Russo were discovered at Slamdance, and now we have Marawi Jarima. Our theme this year, Greenlight Yourself, represents the encouragement that we provide our community of artists, who are the future of independent filmmaking. And this brings us to our new Unstoppable program, which is dedicated to creators working with and supporting disability. Given the incredible challenges that we've all been facing this year, we think that this moment has given us the opportunity to reevaluate how best to showcase our artists and see independent film. Accessibility, we believe, is key to the endeavor, and that's why we've created our own global platform so that you can see us and see this on your favorite app. We're excited Slamdance is expanding its inclusive artist-driven network, and we invite you to join us for all of our panels, but specifically for today, this panel. Real Love to Real Love, Humanizing Romantic Relationships on Screen, will be moderated by Kristin Lopez, featuring our panelists, which are also our Unstoppable programmers. I would like to thank Helen Keller Services for their incredible support to Slamdance Unstoppable and to the community at large. Thank you to our ASL interpreters, Jamie and Alyssa, for their hard work and dedication to accessibility. Kristin Lopez is the TV editor at IndieWire and a disabled entertainment writer whose work has been published in Variety, Forbes, and Roger Ebert. As a disabled film buff, her writing often deconstructs the issues regarding disability and gender in entertainment. She has a master's in English from Sacramento State University, and in her free time, she enjoys reading, podcasting, and watching TCM. Here are the co-founders of Slamdance Unstoppable, which are also our panelists today. Born on the island of Trinidad and Tobago, Juliet Romeo is the co-founder of Slamdance Unstoppable and the founder of Media Jewels Production, based in Miami. She's an award-winning filmmaker, writer, and advocate for sickle cell awareness. Her short documentary titled Jewels, about her life with sickle cell and her battle searching for a cure, was received with critical acclaim and support from PBS. She has a long-standing working relationship with PBS through her films and her advocacy, and she's currently working on a feature-length documentary based on Jewels. Our next programmer is Asha Chai-Chang, who is an award-winning director, writer, and producer from Charlotte, North Carolina. She is the co-founder of Slamdance Unstoppable and the founder of Love My Productions. Love My Productions is a diversified, culturally transformative entertainment and media enterprise. It produces uplifting content such as films, web series, and comedic television shows. They create iconic experiences and products to educate and promote subcultures. Gabriel Cordell is an actor and motivational speaker who happens to be a T6 paraplegic. He is the co-founder of Slamdance Unstoppable. He has guest starred on some of television's biggest shows and has traveled the world sharing his life story. Roll With Me, a feature-length documentary about Gabriel's journey across America, was officially selected for the Slamdance Film Festival in 2018. The documentary was quickly picked up for distribution by Array, Ava DuVernay's production company, and can currently be seen on Netflix. Steve Way is a comedian, motivational speaker, content creator, and actor from New Jersey, and possibly the funniest person I've ever met. He is the co-founder of Slamdance Unstoppable, and you can currently see him in Hulu's hit show, Raimi. Born with muscular dystrophy, Way is an advocate for disability rights, universal health care, and for actors with disabilities in Hollywood. Wei is currently working with Apple TV to develop his own series. Kristen, I will turn it over to you right now. I just want to say thank you again. It's an honor to have you moderate this, and can't wait to see what's discussed. Thank you.
Taylor set the bar high. Oh my gosh, I feel very overwhelmed. Hello, everybody. I am Kristin Lopez. I'll do a brief self-description as well. I'm a white female with brown hair, wearing a multicolored, I guess that's what it is, sweater and dark glasses. And I am so excited to get to talk to all of you about the topic of disability and relationships, and my cat apparently wanting to photobomb she wants in on this. She feels passionate about it, obviously. But I guess the question that I wanted to start out, and I'll direct it to one individual person, but everybody please feel free to jump in. But I'll start with Juliet. For you, is there a disability romantic story, and that can be positive or negative, that has stuck with you?
Wow. Well, first I want to describe myself. I am a brown-skinned Afro-Caribbean woman. I have my hair highlighted red. My hair's brown with red highlights and light spiral curls that actually lasted today. I'm wearing a pink blouse with little silver hearts on it. I have a backdrop with beautiful flowers and a white bookshelf with lots of film memorabilia on it. I feel that, I would say that a film that always stuck with me as a child was Glass. I think that's the name of it. And although Samuel Jackson is not, it's not romantic though. It really isn't. But I did feel that the relationship between him and his mother was really touching, and how protective she was of him growing up. But it was dampening by the fact to find out, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling anything for anyone, that, he turns out to be the villain, and that he's just really bitter and angry about his situation, that he's in his wheelchair, and that, everything, that he can't do things like other children or as an adult, that everything always breaks. And I just felt that the bitterness kind of dampened that love relationship between him and his mom. Like it just overshadowed everything. And plus, again, why couldn't we just have a real person? Because I really thought as a child that was a completely made up disability. And then to grow up and learn that it wasn't, I was like, wait a minute, why did they make it seem like that? Like, because I do feel like sometimes that's what a lot of films do. They create this illness or whatever that you just almost think that it doesn't exist, and they just kind of made it up in their mind, especially when they place someone that, an able-bodied person into, to play the character. It's like, I don't get to learn about that. I'm just looking at everything as, I just believe that the writer and the director just made these things up. And
it's funny you bring up Unbreakable, which is the film, because it's a movie that that I've told the story numerous times. I did not see for a long time because I have the disability that Samuel L. Jackson's character has. So that movie will never escape me. Well, for Asha, I think Juliet brings up a good point, which is that most of the relationships when people with disabilities are presented on screen are strictly familial, mother-son, father-daughter. They are not romantic sexual relationships. For you, I think growing up, we especially as a disabled person, we don't have those codes of navigating the disabled sphere. For you, the lack of representation in a romantic setting, would you say that impacted your relationships growing up?
Wow. Oh, so first, let me describe myself before I dive into this discussion.
So I'm Caribbean American. I'm rocking like long curly hair, shiny earrings, and pink because we're talking about love. Behind me, I also have a white bookcase. Okay, twin. With my like some of my awards and like film books and creative stuff. But yeah, back to what we were saying. Yeah. So for me, it's a little, my story is weird. I went from having a couple of issues with like respiratory issues growing up, and it was like, oh yeah, it's asthma, it's fine, it's this, it's, so I was like, okay, that feels, I don't know why I say this, but like it felt relatable or okay. And even though I went through weird situations like living in a bubble for a while, and that was weird for me because I was like literally isolated. I couldn't get to talk to the boys I thought were cute in school, kind of thing. But aside from that, it wasn't until after I had my accidents in college and they were like, oh, it's actually not your lungs, it's not asthma, you have tracheostenosis. So you literally have like a tightening of your airway. And I was like, oh, that explains a lot. Wow, no one's gonna want to be with me. It's like I'm not gonna lie, the first thing I thought about was like, no one's gonna think I'm cute now. Or I had to keep explaining to people what's going on or why I'm flaring. Like I kind of just was going through a little bit right here. So I think a lot of it is because I don't see characters like myself on screen, or people make me feel weird. Like, what's wrong with you? Why do you sound like that? It just instantly kind of shoots your confidence down. And I hope I answered your question a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, that's how it really felt growing up, was like I started to just kind of shut down. And it impacted a lot, everything from what I write to how I look at romantic relationships from that point on. I was like, I don't know, I got kind of closed off. But the good thing is it did make me start like getting to really know people, or allow for them to get to know me as well. So for that, maybe that helped in some romantic situations, or I did have to shake it off with like, yeah, I get used to it, or yeah, I know you just need some tea and we'll work through it, or I know you're going through a flare, I'll help, like, what do you need from me? Like, and that's kind of people I started to attract. So there's been some positives, but overall, I don't see myself on, like, I don't see a character like me on TV, so my brain's like, I get nervous about the idea of
well, I want to ask Steve and Gabriel and Juliet, feel free to jump in. The same question, because Steve, you and I are both wheelchair users, and I think that often comes with the filmic depiction of us needing to be cared for. There's a lot of moving parts, literally, and relationships that depict that on screen usually are presented through an able-bodied person kind of having that moment of how am I going to deal with this caregiver position. So for you and Gabriel as well, that distinction in physical difference for you, would you say that lack of example on screen affects the relationships that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that would resemble something of like real life. Sorry, real quick. I'm a white male with glasses, wearing a white t-shirt with a white towel around my neck. I have a ventilator mask around my nose, sitting in a black wheelchair with a blue blanket behind me and a white background. I mean, what have we seen? A guy with muscular dystrophy just go on a date, and you don't talk about the disabilities, or you don't see all the planning and preparation that it takes to get to that point. I always despised the cliche, oh, it's so hard to date in New York City. Yeah, we'll do that where, a quarter of the subway stops are accessible. and about half of those have actual working elevators, and then you have to find an accessible business, and then you have to make sure once you get inside you can actually move around, and then once you get all the way inside you have to make sure they have things like bendy straws or like an accessible menu. It's not fun, but they don't show that on TV because it's not romantic.
Exactly. There's a lot of more advanced planning. I always say that when you're traveling with a disability, there's no spontaneity. There's no like get in the car and just go somewhere. That doesn't happen. But again, it's not romantic.
No, the other part of that is that whenever they show someone like us on a date, their disability always has to come up. But I don't believe that either, because it's always talked about beforehand.
So I do want to throw out to Gabriel, in what ways does the portrayal of people with disabilities in film seem representative or unrepresentative of the experience of people with disabilities or their families as you see them? You're muted.
Hi. So a physical description, I am a Caucasian male wearing a black hoodie with a beige hat and glasses and earplugs. I am a paraplegic, so I am also a wheelchair user. And my background is the top of my brown couch and the bottom of a portrait on the wall with a white wall. So, to your question, so I was okay. I guess I want to answer a little bit of the previous questions.
Yes, please.
So obviously, from my experience, I haven't found a problem with the dating scene for me. The problem is when the intimacy comes into play. For me, it's never about, oh, I can't find someone to date or someone to like me or to go out with me. That was never a problem for me. But once you get behind closed doors and then you want to explore, that's when the issues come up. The issues that we don't see in film and television, except for one film. And if I remember the name correctly, is it called The Water Dance with Helen Hunt?
The
and
Sessions.
No.
Oh, that's the other one. Excuse me.
I think it was with Helen Hunt and Daniel Stern.
Oh, okay. She did the other one. That's why I was confused.
Okay. And so that film, more than any other, I think it's called The Water Dance. And that film, more than any other film, really, really portrayed and depicted what it is to have a disability and what it is to be involved with people on a romantic level. So if no one has seen that film, that's a really good film to see. It's pretty accurate. But I guess, on the surface, in film and television, they touch upon relationships on the surface, but, nothing that's delved into really deep. I guess that's the thing that I would like to see change and improve is just the little intricacies of what it is to be in a romantic relationship with someone with a disability.
I actually just watched a video my sister sent me about one of the writers from Cosmo. she does like the sex and relationship column. And so what she did is she watched about 10 love scenes from different iconic films, and she spoke about them and rated them based on intimacy, asking for consent and things like that, like if it was normal or comfortable or awkward. And none of them were, it was TV and film, and none of them included anyone with a disability. And going back to something that Asha and I think Steve mentioned, I think about not seeing it and not seeing what intimacy looks like, and it being that it's not romantic. I think maybe we have to kind of, as filmmakers, help to change that gaze of what romance is. Because when in the real world, especially for women, romance starts way before anyone has taken off any clothes or anything like that. My husband, remembering every morning to me waking up and seeing my water bottle already filled, knowing that he just brought me a cup of hot tea and he knows I'm awake, but he knows what time I'm going to get up. That tells me he woke up thinking about me and that he did this loving me. And I already wake up feeling romance. I already feel that way, feel that he thought of me, So I think that if we change or help to guide, and this goes, I think, across the board, I think what we see on television is really very, it's shallow. It's like one person's you're having conversation and the next thing, bam, they're in a bedroom. Like, what happened in between that? That doesn't happen. And it's not necessarily, I know we have film and action is important, but so is dialogue. And sometimes the words that we're saying and just the actions that we're doing tells the audience what is happening and what they should feel. So why does it have to be about, and I think that's why, like what Gabe was saying about it starts to get really strange when we get to the intimacy part, is because no one knows what that looks like, and they don't know what they should do or can do, or how it's going to work out with a person with a disability, because they've never even seen it. And I've heard so many people say that even in, able-bodied romantic relationships on television, it's nothing like real life either. So I feel like we're all just confusing ourselves and convincing ourselves that that's something that it just does, we're doing it all wrong. Everything is dating and relationships and intimacy is just awkward and all wrong in the real world. And they just make it look so simple on television. I think that being able to tell the truth and be authentic about it would make such an amazing and really depth of a story, bring depth to a story if we actually saw a relationship in the way that, especially with disabilities, in the way that it really is.
Well,
and I just want to say, obviously there are thousands and thousands of different disabilities, and certain and some disabilities have a lot more harder time with that department than others. Like I would have a more hard time, I would think, physically, right? Like to the physical act of it, I would probably have more time in the bedroom than, say, Juliet or Asha, because they have all their limbs. They may have a different hard time in a different way, but I would have a hard time because I can't feel or use 3/4 of my body.
I feel like if we're comparing ourselves to an able-bodied person and where our physical body can do, then we're always going to lose. Like,
right.
Love me with the way that I can be loved and what I can handle, and that's all I need or all I can give you. That doesn't mean that I'm, if I only have this amount to give you and I'm giving you all that I have, it's still the same amount of love, still the same amount of intimacy. And then, that's just, again, conversations between two people and how they want that to look, what expectations they have. That's a discussion that needs to be seen. So that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like on television and film, able-bodied intimacy is very cookie cutter, right? Yeah. And then in real life, we know it's not like that. And when it comes to differently abled bodies, nothing is cookie cutter about us, because we're all, like you said, we all have different. Honestly, it does not matter that I have all my limbs, because I do not have the lung capacity to do a lot of things. So
right. That's the
like,
point.
My husband already knows. Don't even,
right. And that, right. And that was the point.
Like, we don't lack for that. Like, our love does not lack because of that. And so I feel that if we were able to tell stories and see ourselves, we could relate to that and feel that, like Asha was saying, she felt that it wasn't even an option that she could be lovable because she had not seen it, right? So I feel like we would be able to have that intimate, possibility of intimacy and love if we were comparing ourselves to something that we could never be.
Part of me feels like that would benefit us. Because part of me feels like that in a way would benefit us.
Right.
Because at least for me, I've always had problems dating because, there are so many examples of the disabled guy trying to date on TV and movies. But because there are no examples of, like, a disabled guy really being intimate, that allows me to just make it whatever. Like, there already are no preconceived notions going into it, while there are when it comes for dating. Like, in my experience for dating, I've had to knock down so many like misconceptions about what it's like to be disabled. That, at least for me, once I've gotten to the bedroom, it's like, okay, what now? Whatever. And there's nothing like, oh, wait, but I've seen this. I've seen that. I've seen it this way. So, but that's also coming from me as someone who has been in a sex scene on TV and made a complete fool of myself doing it in the process, so don't trust me. I get everyone.
Well, and I think too, we're talking about intimacy, and I think a lot of the back and forth, for Juliet and Asha especially, as women, there's always that aesthetic element, and disability in television and film tends to make women, especially white women, because women of color with disabilities tend to be very non-existent, but white women have what I call pretty disabilities, which is blindness or deafness, or maybe like a facial disfiguration or something. For you two especially, what does that continued stereotype reiterate to women, especially when it comes to dating and sexuality?
Okay, I know
you could write a book about it. I know I could.
Well, because I was about to jump on saying something about this when Steve was talking about how we look. I was like, oh, I got to say something. Because this is going to sound funny. I had a crush on a guy with muscular dystrophy. Because he's just dope.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Steve, you got a shot.
Guys,
Steve, you got a shot.
I know it.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Don't blush, Asha. Don't blush.
If I create a love connection on this panel, I would love extra compensation.
Kristen got the exclusive, heard it first. Oh my God. You guys. Okay. But what was funny is we end up talking about race as well. And he said this comment like, well, why didn't I see girls of color looking as pretty as you on dating sites? And I was like, yo, don't see this. But I actually understood where he was coming from. And there was a lot of kind of like, I shouldn't say fetishizing, but he was bringing to the attention that basically that's another issue, right? That's like another hurdle to kind of get over when you're on a dating site and they're seeing me physically. And because I'm a woman of color, I have all these stereotypes that come flooding at me. And I'm like, dang it, so I already have those stereotypes to get over. And then we do start talking and then I'm like, oh, I'm a director. They go, oh, so you're bossy. I'm like, wow, now I gotta get over this. Or like, it just feels like there's already enough hurdles. So when I started thinking about, I'm in my head, I'm like, well, maybe I can hide out and not let him know about the disability then. Like, how long can I sit in this chair? Like you said, be cute, get to the date. Don't say anything about it then. And kind of hope they never find out. No, never find out. But like, hopefully you feel like you guys like get a deep enough connection first before you end up having to talk about it.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, listen.
You put it all the way out, yeah.
I put it all out there because I don't have time to waste with. I mean, I've been in situations where they know and they're like, yeah, I can handle this, and they can't handle it. And so now I feel like, okay, I'm trying to give him a chance, and he is failing me at every opportunity because when it comes to me having a pain crisis or something, they don't know what to do. And no one can do anything for us. So I do understand the helplessness, but at that time when people just tend to make things about them when it's actually happening to me, I don't have any time or grace for that. And so I'm just like, let me let you know now, this is what it is, and it's really tough. And also, I'm going to need you to also be tested to make sure that you do not have the sickle cell trait so that we do not continue this cycle of having, children that would have this debilitating illness. And once all that's on the table, it's like, so, I'm actually moving to Japan or whatever they say, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine because I'm like, no more time wasted, Yeah.
Well, for Gabriel and Steve especially, we're talking about the promotion of more authentic portrayals of relationships on television and films. How can filmmakers help this cause of promoting a better understanding of relationships and people with disabilities?
I think that would have to happen through the creative process. I think, especially with, depending on the disability, it wouldn't be, okay, you know what, let's just change this in the moment. Sometimes they'll change something in a script, the day of. I don't necessarily know if that's conducive to, what they're trying to accomplish. But I think, through the creative process, having people talk about it, and if there's a love scene, or if there's a romantic scene, or if there's a scene, a dating scene, have someone to say.
Do you guys feel like when you're on set that you can speak to the director or whomever and say, hey, to make this a little bit more authentic, this is how it would really look, or whatever? Like, have you guys ever done that, and what was the feedback on that?
I've never had to do that because I've never been in a romantic or intimate scene on screen. I'm waiting. But I've never done that. But I would voice. I would say something, especially if I knew we had maybe the time or the flexibility to do something. Then I would absolutely, because that otherwise, how would they know? That's not something they're thinking about, unless someone comes to them and consciously puts it into their mind. It's not something they think about at all. Just like, for example, and this has nothing to do with romance or anything, but when I'm with my friends and we're out and we're all in a car, I can't tell you how many times they all get out of the car and start walking. I'm like, hey, it's just something that they don't think about, right? So when it comes to, I guess, directors, writers, creators, unless you are involved, unless you know someone on an intimate level that has a disability, these are not things they think about. So we need to voice our opinions, because maybe if they can include it in what we're shooting today, maybe in a future project, they'll be like, wait a minute, I remember. And I think that's the way, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, to answer Juliet's question, I've done that before, but that was for a scene where my best friend just trips me off. So, it wasn't anything like heavy. It's not something that would change people's perceptions. I guarantee you that, or it might, for the worst. But to answer Kristen's question before, we need to stop having movies like Me Before You. If you don't know what that movie is, it's rich guy. And that's the other thing. We gotta stop having movies about these rich guys who then
right.
Oh my God!
Aren't we all just independently wealthy on this panel? We all have millions. That comes with the disability, right?
Between the upside and Me Before You, it's infuriating. But if you don't know what Me Before You is, this rich guy becomes paralyzed, and his caregiver is Khaleesi from Game of Thrones.
Emilia Clarke, yeah.
But then he wants to kill himself because he's afraid that he's like incapable of love, and that she's gonna fall in love with him, but he'll be a burden. I mean, there's so many things in that movie I don't believe. Number one being, if the Mother of Dragons was my caregiver, I would do everything possible to stay alive and to not kill myself. Movie sucks. Don't watch it. Don't give the studio the money, because the more people watch it, the more dumb movies like that get made. Stop giving in. Thank you.
You're
It really does.
Today's TED Talk.
And also, again, a non-disabled actor playing a disabled role, it just checks every box of what not to do. And they keep getting away with it. I'm done.
I'm just glad somebody else is on the hill of hating Me Before You with a fiery passion, because I despise it. So I'm glad that I'm not alone. But no, that leads to a good question, which is that if the goal is to, obviously we're talking about casting authentically, casting disabled people, but we also know that there's been changes to the industry, especially with the implementation of intimacy coordinators.
Yep.
I'll just throw it out to whoever wants to answer it, but with the need to have more professionals like them trained to handle sensitive situations, how do you see them working with people with disabilities to talk about their specific sensitive situation, as they're also there to, do you think that there will be a positive change, or do you think that it's going to be one more excuse to not cast authentically?
I'm honestly afraid of it.
Okay.
Because this feels like an accommodation that's meant for non-disabled people. How now, writers' rooms are now on Zoom, where if you live in New York, you can now do a writer's room in Los Angeles. My fear is that once this pandemic is over and we go back to somewhat of a new normal, they will take that away from us. When we've been asking for that for years.
Yeah.
And I have the same fear when it comes to this, where this obviously came out of the Me Too movement. But my fear is that you're going to have people who just don't know how to work with disabled actors, and they won't be trained for it. Mm-hmm. So they obviously might have the actor's best interest in mind, but they might not execute it the right way.
No.
And I don't know what it will take for
I
that.
feel like they would put more budget into craft services than they would in getting someone that is professionally trained to do that for people with disabilities.
Yeah, I am glad you asked this question, Kristen. My thought when I was thinking about this was, I feel like there's no there's not even a sensitivity or an awareness training to the fact that being differently able does not mean you're unable. What that means to be unable to be a lead actor or actor in a film to actually have an intimacy scene. And as a director, I was concerned. That's why I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm sure they're filtering out perfectly not able-bodied necessarily, but able to portray a character, people, or actors before I get a chance to even see them to see if they're great for my film, right? Just because I hear there's, the leading man, the leading lady. And as soon as I hear that, I go, oh, yep, definitely not. They have their own mindset to who that's going to be. And I was concerned as well. I'm thinking about people talking, intimacy coordinators. I'm like, they weren't thinking about that for people who are differently able. That's not where your mind was thinking. You said and Steve said it perfectly. It was more definitely geared to probably the Me Too movement, or even maybe now thinking about it for, the pandemic, the COVID situation. And I feel like it's just, I shouldn't say unnecessary filter, but maybe a filter that's not going to help with the creative process of getting the stories that we are saying that we need out right now, which is to show differently able people in romantic relationships or situations, period. So,
and it's unfortunate because what an amazing challenge that would be to take on how unique your films would be to have that perspective.
Exactly. And you think about it, because we have COVID coordinators now, COVID-19 coordinators, right? Or supervisors, depending on which set you're on. And they're thinking about, we got to think about health this way. And I was like, that's funny. But when we're thinking about accommodations for differently able, you didn't jump on that.
No, it's too much. It's a liability. But just to also mention about what Steve said and what you just mentioned about COVID coordinators, I know someone that's working in Hollywood, working in films, major films. And when I told her that I was thinking about getting certified as a COVID coordinator, she was like, well, how much is the training? And when I told her, I think it was between $300 and $500, she's like, that's a waste of money because they're just making the PAs do it. So it's not surprising, but it's just really sad because we already know if they're doing that with something that is so important and we see what's happening, what are they going to do when it comes to us really standing up for ourselves and saying we want intimacy coordinators that are specifically trained for differently abled actors? And they're just going to be like, yeah, we got you. And then we'll, see, the intern PA coming in, God knows what. And it's like, It's
not funny, but I get it.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming down to the end of our time, and I want to throw out one question that I know has always been on my mind in the last couple of years. But I remember when The Shape of Water came out, which Sally Hawkins, not actually a deaf woman, but we'll put that aside for the concept of the question. But I remember when that movie came out, a lot of people were freaking out, able-bodied people, about the emphasis on her sexuality. And it led to this really, really bizarre series of tweets from people that were very, very interested in disability and sex. And that leads to the question that I wanted to throw out, which is, why is there this continued fear, but also interest that you see, especially when media does show disabled sexuality? Why is there that trepidation, but also that very weird anthropological interest?
Yeah, I also want to add that I feel like they decided to show intimacy with a sea creature, not really another person. So it was like you had to take it. Like the one time we get to see that, like we said, she's not, disabled, but we get to see it, and it wasn't even with another human being. It's like, why do we create animated characters of color, but for the half of the film, they're little animals somewhere? Like, what's happening?
It's a fantasy on top of a fantasy,
on top of a fantasy. Yes, absolutely. I don't like it, and it's just so heavy to say that there's, as a person that is, like, I'm just the trifecta. We're Black women, we're disabled. It's so much that it trickles down into this filter of oneness. It's this trinity where it's just really all the problems wrapped into one, and there's just like so much that needs to be replied to and changed. It's like, where do you start?
Do you think that it has to do with, to go with kind of what Steve was talking about, that there is this continued belief that, and we're slowly seeing a transition away from it, but that people with disabilities are asexual and or thus saintly, that purity, that pure of mind, we see that a lot with disability. Do you think that stereotype continues to play in this belief that we are just uninterested?
I think that's part of it, but I think it's compounded by sexuality in America just already being so taboo. So when you throw in disabled people, you get a freak show. And just people don't know, they've never seen it before. No, it's something that, like, you can't talk about. You can't see it, you can't learn about it. It's just so many warped perceptions of sex and sexuality and disabled people. And when you put them all together, people can't handle it. And that they almost feel bad, or they feel like they're watching something they shouldn't. So I think it's really up to us to kind of reclaim that and, make it our own, and every chance we get, just try to show relationships for how they truly are.
To go off of what Steve mentioned, I think the last question I want to talk about, to end this on a positive note, is about advocacy. What can we all do? I think a lot of people with disabilities feel that with media especially, it's too big. They can't do anything. What are some constructive things they can do that will hopefully propel this movement as we are entering 2021 into seeing more positive portrayals, hopefully in the next couple of years?
I definitely feel that we need to start with creating our own. No one is going to do this for us. As a writer, I want to create my own characters that speak to the way I want to be seen, and I want other differently abled, differently able people in the community to also be reflected. And then also from a director's perspective, even when I have the opportunity to work on someone else's screenplays, I want to look at these characters as why can't they have a disability? If this is a doctor, why can't he or she be disabled? I don't really like to have characters where their disability is in the forefront. We're just people. We go to the grocery store. We are everywhere. So why can't we be seen everywhere? In all facets. And so that's definitely what I'm trying to do, is to really build my own table and then invite everyone else around it so that we can all continue to thrive and tell our stories and really show. As soon as people start to see in the industry that it's being done, then they jump aboard. So we're never going to get them to think it's a good idea until we show them how good of an idea it is.
Asha, Steve, Gabe, anything you want to add to that?
Well, okay, go ahead, Gabe.
Okay. Well, what I think would be a great idea, not that it's going to happen, but I think that in film schools, I think inclusivity should be part of their curriculum. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that should be talked about as a young filmmaker. Just like using different cameras, just like using different techniques. You do use different people with different abilities. And, to me, I would like to see that, but it's us, like Juliet said, we have to create the content. And once we create content that works, mm-hmm. right, people will jump on board and be like, hey, you know what? I saw this and it was different, but it worked. And it really just gave me a lot of insight that I didn't know I had, or these preconceived notions that I had, and it completely destroyed them because someone showed it, someone displayed it in a way where it was understood and it was creative and artistic, but real and authentic.
Yeah.
Asha, I know you wanted to say something.
Indeed, yeah, I love both, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Is we definitely need to keep putting inclusivity at the forefront. As I mentioned, that Slamdance talks about green light yourself, right? That's our whole theme. Is for us to create the content. It's for us to create those conversations so they can keep happening, and also use the power of social media, right? So if you see someone else who has made a film that is inclusive, that is, I guess, disability awareness, I would call it, but I don't like saying that, but I get it. As long as we're bringing awareness to different, I always say subcultures, or people who are multidimensional, characters are multidimensional and have really powerful storytelling. If you see it happening, push them out there, promote. Talk about what they're doing, talk about the filmmakers that we have in the Unstoppable program, use the power that you have. It might be, because I feel like if each of us do a little, then we can go very far. We don't have to all do a lot. Be like, all right, we got to go now, throw up our own studio. It may not always have to be that, but if we all came together, like you said, whether it's Creative Collective, being here at Slamdance, those are examples of just becoming more aware, meeting more people that you can create with, and let's just change the world.
I agree. And Gabe, I do think it can happen, because look at what we've done at Slamdance as far as bringing disability inclusion to film festivals. And now all the other film festivals have decided to follow suit.
Yeah,
right.
So, and I hope they continue. I know we will continue to do Unstoppable. And so that will let them know, oh, they're still doing that? Well, we need to continue doing it. Right. I do believe that we can push it, and also inviting something like Slamdance and Unstoppable, and really letting people at the level of film schools know, hey, this is out here, and you guys can be a part of Unstoppable at Slamdance. If you did films like this, would encourage not just the students, but also the faculty and just academia as a whole to get it together.
Perfect. Well, I thank all of you for sitting down and chatting with me about this topic. And I wish we had more time to talk about all sorts of different things, but I appreciate what we put out. I'm excited for everyone to get to see this. And again, as Juliet said, follow suit.
Yes. Feel the love.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
Great. Well, thank you again, Kristin Lopez, and all of our amazing, unstoppable co-founders and panelists today. Please check out Slamdance Unstoppable and the Slamdance Festival, which will be February 12th through the 25th. Thank you all, and stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.